Welcome, curious minds, to the deep dive. Today we're embarking on maybe the most captivating expedition of all, trying to unravel the mysteries of our own existence. What really makes us?
Well, us.
It's the ultimate question, isn't it?
It really is. And for any engineer listening, anyone accustomed to the precision of formulas, the logic of systems, the drive for efficiency, the human body is just. It's the most complex, astonishingly efficient, self-regulating chemical system we know.
It really is. A marvel of natural design that, frankly, challenges the imagination. You could say it's biological engineering at its absolute finest.
Exactly. Human engineers work so hard designing things, but nature,
Yeah.
the elegance and precision in us, it kind of defies our usual understanding, from the tiny parts right up to the big system.
It's layers upon layers of ingenuity.
Absolutely. So our mission today, it's a fascinating one. We're going on an expedition, basically, to explore the very essence of what constitutes us.
Where do we even start? Well, we'll move from the atomic building blocks, the stuff that makes up every single cell in your body. We'll then look at the dance of these big molecules, the macromolecule.
And then zoom out a bit.
Yeah, then zoom out to the shared blueprint that defines our whole species, Homo sapiens.
Right.
And along the way, we're going to have to dissect some, persistent myths about human differences.
That's crucial.
Definitely. And finally, we'll look at that unique spark consciousness, culture, what really sets us apart. The goal is a story that's, well, scientifically solid, but also really captivating. Clear concepts, no unnecessary jargon, tailored for you, the listener who values depth.
Right. And we've pulled from a pretty wide range of sources for this: scientific articles, peer-reviewed papers, comprehensive entries from biological and anthropological research. We want to give you a really full picture.
A comprehensive understanding of our composition, our unity, and, our distinctiveness.
Exactly. So let's dive in.
Okay, so what makes us us? Where do we begin? It turns out the foundation, the absolute basics, it's kind of simple, chemically speaking.
It seems counterintuitive, doesn't it, given how complex we are?
Totally. You'd think we need all sorts of rare, exotic ingredients. But nope, we're literally talking about basic chemistry.
And that's one of the most fascinating things here. Despite our, immense complexity, life is built from surprisingly common elements.
It's like nature's ultimate efficiency hack.
You could say that, constructing just amazing complexity from a really limited set of basic blocks. It's all about how those blocks are arranged and interact.
Okay, so break it down for us. What are these core ingredients?
Well, if you look at our body mass, almost 99% of it comes down to just 6 elements. We call them the big 6.
The big 6. Okay, I'm listening.
Oxygen is the heavyweight champ, around 65%. Then carbon at about 18%, hydrogen at 10%.
Okay, oxygen, carbon, hydrogen. That's 93% already.
Exactly. Then you've got nitrogen at 3%, calcium at 1.5%, and phosphorus rounding it out at 1%. Just those 6 make up almost all of you.
Wow. And why these 6? Is it just because they're common on Earth?
Well, their abundance is definitely part of it, sure. But it's more about their unique chemical properties. They're just perfectly suited for forming the kinds of bonds needed for life.
Like carbon. I remember that being important.
Oh, absolutely central. Carbon's ability to form 4 stable bonds with itself and other elements, it's unparalleled. It creates these long chains, rings, complex structures.
Yeah.
It's the backbone, literally, of all organic molecules. Proteins, fats, carbs, DNA, they're all built around carbon.
And oxygen and hydrogen. Mostly water, right?
Right, they form water, the universal solvent essential for almost every reaction in the body. Plus, oxygen's crucial for getting energy out of food cellular respiration. The sheer complexity of life, even abstract thought, emerges from how these simple elements are arranged and interact.
It's the architecture, not just the bricks.
Precisely. It's a level of functional density. Engineers can only dream of that.
Okay, so that's the 99%. But what about the other 1%? You hear about trace elements being important.
Oh, absolutely critical. That remaining percentage, roughly 0.85%, includes 5 other vital elements, often called trace elements: potassium, sulfur, sodium, chlorine, and magnesium.
And these are where the engineering analogy really hits home, right? Like tiny catalysts making huge systems work.
Exactly. Even in tiny amounts, if these are missing or out of balance, the effects can be catastrophic. Quantity does not equal importance here.
Give me examples. Sodium and potassium.
Perfect example. They are absolutely essential for nerve impulses. Every thought you have, every muscle you move, your heartbeat, it all relies on sodium and potassium ions moving across cell membranes, creating electrical signals. Without them, your nervous system just stops.
That's fundamental. What about magnesium?
Magnesium is another star, tiny amounts, but it's a cofactor, a helper molecule for over 300 different enzymes. These reactions do everything from making energy, repairing DNA, building proteins, controlling muscles, regulating blood sugar, you name it.
So like a key ingredient in hundreds of recipes.
Exactly. If you miss that tiny pinch of catalyst, the whole chemical plant grinds to a halt. A tiny bit of the right element can be the linchpin for a massive system.
And we can't forget the stage for all this chemistry. Water.
Absolutely not. Water isn't an element, but it's the most abundant molecule in the body, easily 50 to 75% of you.
And it does more than just fill space.
So much more. Its unique properties make it the universal solvent. It dissolves more things than anything else, which means it transports nutrients in, waste products out, lets signaling molecules move around. It facilitates pretty much everything.
And temperature regulation.
Yes. Its high specific heat helps keep our body temperature stable, preventing dangerous spikes or drops. It lubricates joints, cushions, organs. It's the medium, the transport system, the coolant. Life just couldn't happen without it. That constant flow is fundamental.
Okay, so we have the elements, but they aren't just like floating in a soup, are they? This is where it gets really mind-bending for me, especially thinking like an engineer. They organize.
They organize spectacularly into these incredibly complex structures we call macromolecules. These are the real pillars of life, and they form this amazing hierarchy.
Hierarchy, like building blocks making bigger blocks.
Precisely. Atoms make small molecules join to make macromolecules, macromolecules assemble into organelles like mitochondria, organelles form cells, cells group into tissues, tissues make organs, organs form systems, and boom, you have a whole organism.
That modular hierarchical design, it feels very efficient, very engineered.
It absolutely is. It allows for immense complexity and robustness from simpler units. And there are 4 main classes of these big biomolecules: carbohydrates, lipids, proteins, and nucleic acids.
Okay, let's tackle those. Carbohydrates first, we think energy, right? But is that the whole story?
It's the main story, but not the whole book. Carbs are the primary fast-acting energy source. Think glucose instant fuel for your brain, your muscles.
Like a quick power boost.
Exactly. And your body's smart about it. Unused glucose gets stored as glycogen, mostly in the liver and muscles. That's like your short-term battery pack.
But too much is a problem.
Definitely. Chronic excess, beyond what you burn, that can lead to insulin resistance, potentially type 2 diabetes, and obesity as the extra gets converted to fat for long-term storage.
And there are different kinds of carbs.
Oh yes. Simple sugars like glucose and fructose are monosaccharides. Then you have aldosaccharides like lactose in milk, and polysaccharides, long chains like starch in plants, or glycogen in us for storage, or cellulose in plants for structure. Each type has its role.
Okay, next up, lipids. Fats. More than just stored energy, you said.
Way more. Yes, they're incredibly efficient energy storage, more than twice the energy per gram compared to carbs or proteins, stored mainly in adipose tissue. But their other roles are vital.
Like what?
Cell membranes. Every single cell in your body is wrapped in a phospholipid bilayer. That membrane controls everything that goes in and out. It's made of lipids. It's like the cell's security system and gatekeeper.
Okay, that's fundamental. Anything else?
Signaling. Steroid hormones, think testosterone, estrogen, cortisol, they're all derived from lipids. They travel through the body carrying critical messages, regulating everything from reproduction to stress response. Their insolubility in water is actually key to how they work.
And there are different types of lipids, too.
A huge variety. Simple fats like triglycerides, compound ones like phospholipids, associated lipids like cholesterol, which is essential for membranes and making hormones, waxes, oils. It's a diverse group.
Got it. Now, the real workhorses, proteins, you said they make up most of our mass.
A huge chunk, yeah, maybe 50 to 70%. And they provide energy, too, about 4 calories per gram, but their functions are just staggering.
Like structure.
Structure, absolutely. Collagen gives strength to skin, bones, tendons. Elastin gives skin its stretchiness. Keratin makes up hair and nails.
So they build things. What else?
They do things. Contractile proteins like actin and myosin make muscles work. Hormonal proteins like insulin regulate blood sugar. Transport proteins like hemoglobin carry oxygen. Defense proteins, antibodies, or immunoglobulins fight off infections. They're enzymes that speed up chemical reactions. The list is endless.
It sounds like they do almost everything.
Pretty much. They are polymers of amino acids. And the specific sequence of those amino acids determines the protein's unique 3D shape. That shape is absolutely critical for its function.
Function follows form.
Precisely. And think about aging. Our ability to assemble these proteins correctly, to use those amino acids, it tends to decline over time. That's part of the aging process at a molecular level. An engineer would love the precision here. Each protein is like a specialized tool, perfectly designed for its job.
Okay. Structure, action. What about the instructions? That's nucleic acids, right? DNA and RNA.
Exactly. The custodians of genetic information, found mainly in the cell nucleus, they dictate everything. They're made of nucleotides.
DNA is the master plan.
DNA, deoxyribonucleic acid, yes. It holds the hereditary blueprint, the complete instructions passed down through generations. RNA, ribonucleic acid, is the intermediary. It takes the instructions from DNA and helps turn them into proteins.
And there are different kinds of RNA doing different jobs.
Correct. Messenger RNA, mRNA, carries the code from DNA to the protein-making machinery. Ribosomal RNA is part of that machinery. The ribosome, transfer RNA, tRNA, brings the specific amino acid building blocks to the ribosome. It's this incredibly complex, coordinated dance.
So DNA is truly the source code for all life, connecting us all at the most fundamental level.
Precisely. That's the profound implication. The fact that the genetic code is essentially universal, the same 4 letters, used in basically the same way across all life, from bacteria to us, is definitive proof of our shared ancestry. It's the source code that unites everything.
For an engineer, that concept of a universal code or standard that resonates.
It really does. DNA is like the universal standard for biological information. It's an incredibly elegant, robust solution for storing and transmitting life's instructions, allowing all this diversity to emerge from one common molecular language. A universal operating system for life, you could say.
Amazing. So we have the big 4 macromolecules, but there are other small players too, right? Electrolytes, vitamins.
Absolutely essential players, even if they're small. Electrolytes like sodium, potassium, chloride are crucial for fluid balance, nerve signals, muscle function. Vitamins often act as coenzymes, helpers for those protein enzymes. Vitamin C for collagen, vitamin D for calcium, trace minerals like iron for hemoglobin, iodine for thyroid hormones.
They're like the lubricants, the fine-tuning components.
That's a great analogy. They keep the whole complex machine running smoothly, efficiently, maintaining that critical internal balance, homeostasis. So when you step back, despite our incredible complexity, we're built from a surprisingly limited set of fundamental chemical parts. It's complexity emerging from elegant simplicity.
Okay, we've got the atoms, the molecules, this incredible chemical foundation, but how does this scale up? How do we get from molecules to defining an entire species, especially when you look around the world and see such, well, apparent diversity?
That's the next big question, isn't it? You see people from East Asia, Sub-Saharan Africa, indigenous Arctic communities. The visual differences can seem significant, but what makes us fundamentally the same underneath all that?
The biological answer is pretty straightforward, right?
It is clear and robust.
Yeah.
We are all fundamentally the same because we all belong to the same species, Homo sapiens. That shared biology is far more profound than any superficial variation.
So let's unpack species. In biology, how do we define that? The biological species concept, the BSC, is the usual go-to, isn't it?
It is, especially for animals like us that reproduce sexually. The BSC defines a species as a group of organisms that can naturally interbreed or could potentially interbreed, and this is the key part, produce fertile offspring.
Fertile offspring, that's the linchpin. Like, dogs are all one species because any breed can mate with another and have puppies that can also reproduce.
Exactly, but a horse and a donkey. They can mate and produce a mule, but mules are almost always sterile. So horses and donkeys are distinct species according to the BSC.
And importantly, appearance isn't the deciding factor here.
Absolutely crucial point. Looks can be deceiving. 2 animals might look very different but be the same species if they can produce fertile young. Or they might look similar but be different species. For humans, the visible diversity is real but biologically trivial compared to the fact that any human population can interbreed freely with any other and have fertile children. That defines us as one species.
But the BSC isn't perfect, is it? What about bacteria that just split in 2, or those weird ring species?
Right, it has limitations. It doesn't work well for asexual organisms. And ring species where populations loop around a geographic barrier, interbreeding along the way, but the ends of the loop can't interbreed. They really blur the lines.
So, species definitions are kind of human constructs, tools we use to make sense of things.
To a large extent, yes. They are incredibly useful classifications, but we apply them after observing nature. They aren't absolute cosmic boundaries. Nature is often more fluid, more continuous than our neat categories imply. There's also the phylogenetic species concept, focusing on shared evolutionary history, but that has its own challenges.
It's interesting for an engineer who usually wants precise definitions. Biology reminds us that sometimes our definitions have to be flexible to fit the messy reality.
Exactly. Our classifications are tools for understanding, not rigid truths. Nature doesn't always fit in our boxes.
Okay, so we're one species, Homo sapiens. Let's talk about our shared story, our journey. How did we get here and spread across the whole planet?
It's an incredible saga. All modern humans, every single one of us, trace our evolutionary roots back to Africa. Our species, Homo sapiens, evolved there from earlier hominin ancestors somewhere between 200,000 and 300,000 years ago.
And some key changes happened during that time.
Crucial milestones. Bipedalism, walking upright on two legs, was huge. It freed our hands for tools, carrying things, maybe helped us stay cool. Brain size gradually increased, paving the way for more complex thought. And our ancestors, like Homo habilis, started making and using simple stone tools, the dawn of technology.
But we didn't stay in Africa forever.
No. Even earlier hominins, like Homo erectus, started migrating out of Africa maybe 1.8 million years ago, spreading into Eurasia, and they mastered fire.
Fire must have been a game changer.
Absolutely transformative. Warmth, protection, cooking food, which makes it more digestible and unlocks more energy-hardening tools, extending the day for social activities. It was massive.
And then our species, Homo sapiens, started the big migrations.
Yes, the major waves of migration out of Africa by modern humans seem to have begun roughly 70,000 to 100,000 years ago. Gradually, over millennia, we populated every habitable corner of the globe, across continents, deserts, mountains, islands, adapting to incredibly diverse climates. It was an astonishing feat.
What allowed for that kind of unprecedented expansion and adaptation? It feels like something must have accelerated it.
I think most scientists would agree. Complex language. The emergence of sophisticated symbolic language, perhaps around 50,000 to 70,000 years ago, was likely the key accelerator.
More than just talking.
Oh, much more. It was like a new operating system for the mind and for society. It allowed for detailed planning, collective problem solving, sharing complex knowledge about hunting, gathering, tool making, navigating, assessing risks and benefits of new places. Crucially, it allowed for cumulative culture, passing knowledge down and building upon it generation after generation.
So language was the enabling technology for global colonization.
In many ways, yes. It allowed for strategic thinking and cooperation on a whole new level.
Now, we know Homo sapiens wasn't the only hominin around back then. There were Neanderthals, Denisovans, but we're the only ones left. Why?
That's a huge area of research and debate. Extinction is normal in evolution. Why did we survive and they didn't? It was likely a combination of factors. Competition for resources as our populations expanded, maybe. Major climate shifts that we were better able to adapt to, perhaps because of our technology and social organization. Diseases. Maybe even some level of direct conflict, although evidence for that is sparse. Our adaptability, fueled by language and culture, likely gave us a crucial edge.
Okay, so our shared history points to unity. But the deepest reason we're all one species, despite appearances. That comes down to our genes, right?
Okay.
Our shared blueprint.
Absolutely. This is where the biological unity is undeniable. What's truly fascinating and maybe surprising to some is just how similar we all are genetically.
How similar are we talking?
All Homo sapiens share approximately 99.99% of their genome. Think about that. Almost perfectly identical at the genetic level.
A 99.99%.
Well, that overwhelming similarity is the fundamental basis of our unity. It's why we can all interbreed and have fertile kids. It dictates our basic biology, how our organs form, how our metabolism works, our brain structure. All the core human stuff is in that shared 99.99%. It's our species' common operating system.
So that tiny, tiny fraction of a percent, the 0.01% difference, that's where all the variation comes from. Skin color, hair type, height, susceptibility to certain diseases.
Exactly. That minuscule difference accounts for all the unique individual traits and the population level variations we see. It's incredible how much diversity arises from such a small genetic difference.
How does that variation actually happen at the DNA level?
Mostly through things like SNPs, single nucleotide polymorphisms. That's like a single letter typo in the massive book of your genome. A C instead of a T at one specific spot. These are common, and many have no effect, but some can influence traits. There are also larger structural variations, bits of DNA inserted, deleted, duplicated.
And this variation isn't static, right? It keeps happening.
Constantly. Every person has, on average, about 60 new mutations compared to their parents. Tiny changes, mostly neutral, but they are the raw material. Mutation, combined with natural selection adapting populations to local environments, genetic drift, random chance, and gene flow between populations. That's what drives the diversity we see within our single species. For an engineer, mutation is like the source of random variation you might see in manufacturing. In biology, it's the essential fuel for evolution and adaptation.
Okay, but our evolutionary story isn't just Homo sapiens branching off and replacing everyone else. You mentioned Neanderthals and Denisovans. The story got more complex recently, didn't it, with evidence of interbreeding?
Oh, dramatically more complex. This is one of the most exciting areas of recent discovery. Genetic evidence, especially from sequencing ancient DNA from fossils, has completely reshaped our understanding. It turns out Homo sapiens didn't just replace other hominins, we interacted with them intimately.
We carry some of their DNA.
We do. We now know that modern humans and Neanderthals interbred multiple times as humans moved into Eurasia. Most people today whose ancestry is from outside sub-Saharan Africa carry between 1% and 4% Neanderthal DNA.
Wow. Does that DNA do anything?
Some of it seems to. It's been linked to things like skin and hair traits, immune system function, even susceptibility to certain modern diseases. It wasn't just random jump DNA. Some of it was likely beneficial as humans adapted to new environments outside Africa.
And there's even evidence it went the other way. Sapiens DNA in Neanderthals.
Yes, even earlier. Evidence suggests some gene flow from early Homo sapiens into Neanderthals maybe 100,000 years ago, possibly in the Middle East. Those specific sapiens groups might have died out later, but their genetic fingerprint remained in Neanderthals. It shows these interactions were complex and potentially happened over long periods.
And what about the Denisovans? They're more mysterious, right?
Yeah, they are, mostly known from just a few fossils from a cave in Siberia and Tibet. But their DNA tells a fascinating story. We know they also interbred with modern humans. Today, Denisovan DNA is found particularly in populations in Oceania Melanesians, Aboriginal Australians who might carry up to 4 or 6% Denisovan DNA, and also in some Southeast Asian populations.
And like with Neanderthals, it wasn't just a one-off event.
It seems not. Evidence suggests modern humans mixed with Denisovans at least twice in different places and times. Again, it points to a pattern of interaction, not just isolation. And some Denisovan genes seem beneficial. A gene variant helping Tibetans adapt to high altitudes is thought to have come from Denisovans.
So this really changes the picture of evolution from a neat tree to something messier.
Much messier, and arguably much more interesting. It's less a simple branching tree and more like a braided stream or a network with connections and gene flow between different lineages. Some scientists argue this hybridization wasn't just incidental, but was actually a key driver of modern human evolution, giving us useful genetic variation quickly as we encountered new challenges.
It's like genetic borrowing for faster adaptation.
Exactly. For an engineer thinking about system robustness, maybe this genetic mixing made our species more adaptable, more resilient. The interfaces between these groups were permeable, leading to a richer gene pool. It's a testament to life's creativity and interconnection.
Okay, this deep dive into genetics, evolution, and species definition leads us straight to a really critical and often uncomfortable topic.
Yeah.
Racism. Does it have any biological basis? The science seems incredibly clear here.
Unequivocally clear, the scientific consensus is robust. Biological races simply do not exist within the human species, Homo sapiens. As Professor Juliana Gonzalez put it, races are purely a social construct, completely lacking any scientific foundation.
So when people talk about different races, biologically speaking, that's just wrong.
It's wrong. Genetics provides the most definitive refutation. The idea of classifying humans into distinct biological races is, frankly, obsolete and absurd based on everything we know about human genetic variation.
Because we're all so genetically similar, that 99.99%.
Precisely. That foundational genetic unity underlies our biological equality. The tiny 0.01% difference explains individual uniqueness, why you look different from me, why siblings aren't identical twins, but it absolutely does not create discrete, biologically meaningful racial categories. The variations we see are graded, continuous, and overlap massively between populations.
So using the engineering analogy again, we're all built from the same blueprint with incredibly tight tolerances. The variations are minor tweaks, not different models.
That's a perfect way to put it. We are all variations on a single fundamental human design. There are no separate biological models or races.
Okay, so if race isn't biological, how do we understand the human diversity we clearly see? What does the genetic data actually show about differences between populations?
That's the crucial point. How is genetic variation actually distributed? And the answer, which might surprise some people, is that the vast majority of human genetic variation exists within any given population, not between different populations.
Wait, say that again? More variation within a group than between groups.
Exactly. Take two random people from, say, Japan. The amount of genetic difference between them is likely to be almost as large as the difference between one of them and a random person from, say, Nigeria or Finland. The variation doesn't cluster neatly into racial boxes.
Is there a number for that? A way to quantify it?
Yes, geneticists use a measure called EST, the fixation index. It quantifies how much genetic variation is due to differences between populations versus within them. For humans, EST is consistently estimated to be around 0.15, or 15%.
So 15% of the variation is between populations, meaning 85% is within them.
Precisely. 85% of all human genetic variation can be found within any local population group. Only about 15% distinguishes continental groups. This finding has been known since the 1970s and confirmed over and over with modern genomics. It's a statistical knockout blow to the idea of biological races.
So two people from different continents could easily be more genetically similar to each other than either is to someone from their own continent.
Absolutely. The probability is significant. For an engineer who trusts data, that SFEST value is a clear, quantifiable metric. It shows human diversity as a spectrum, a gradient, not discrete boxes.
And those traits we often think define race, skin color, hair texture, they're just a tiny fraction of the genome.
A minuscule fraction. And they are often traits that evolved relatively recently as adaptations to local environments, like sunlight levels for skin color. They tell you very little about someone's overall genetic makeup or deep ancestry. Human variation is clinal. It changes gradually across geographic space. And the greatest genetic diversity, by the way, is found within African populations, which makes perfect sense given that Africa is our species' homeland.
Okay, the science is crystal clear. Biological races don't exist.
Yeah.
Yet, racism persists. It even seems to be
does.
increasing in some places. What does that disconnect tell us?
It tells us that racism is not, and has never been, about biology. It's about power, history, economics, and social structures. It's built on assigning arbitrary meaning to superficial differences to justify inequality and discrimination. The disconnect is profound and shows how powerful social constructs can be, even when they fly in the face of scientific reality.
It's a moral and social prejudice, as Professor Gonzalez said.
Exactly, a human invention, not a biological reality. And it has devastating real-world consequences. We see it in genetic discrimination, using perceived race or actual genetic info against people in employment, insurance, healthcare. We see it in massive disparities in health outcomes, wealth, justice. These are driven by systemic racism, not biology.
The flawed social model leads to flawed, unjust outcomes.
Precisely. An engineer knows a bad model gives bad results. Racism is a fundamentally flawed model of human variation. The science gives us the data to reject that model and build something more equitable. Human diversity is something to celebrate, a sign of our adaptability, not a reason for division. Understanding that unity within variation is key.
Okay, we've covered our chemical makeup, our genetic unity, the flaws, and the concept of race. Now let's pivot to what makes us, well, distinctive. What sets Homo sapiens apart in the grand web of life? But first, it's important to ground ourselves, right? We're still animals, deeply connected to all other life.
Absolutely fundamental to remember. What's fascinating is just how much basic biology we share. We're eukaryotes, our cells have a nucleus and complex organelles like mitochondria, just like plants, fungi, other animals. We're multicellular. We reproduce, metabolize, respond to our environment. Basic life stuff.
And as mammals.
We share hair, mammary glands, warm-bloodedness, a four-chambered heart, classic mammalian traits.
And as primates.
Flat nails instead of claws, fingerprints, grasping hands, forward-facing eyes for depth perception, relatively large brains compared to body size. These things tie us closely to monkeys and apes. The shared foundation is a constant reminder of our evolutionary heritage, millions of years in the making. We're a branch on the tree of life, not separate from it.
But then there's the brain. That's where the big divergence seems to happen, right? The engine of our uniqueness.
Undeniably. If we connect this to the bigger picture, the human brain is where the most profound distinctions lie. It's an absolute marvel of biological engineering, granting us cognitive abilities that are, as far as we know, unparalleled.
How complex are we talking?
Astonishingly complex. The average adult brain weighs about 1.35 kilograms, roughly 3 pounds, but it contains something like 86 billion neurons. And each of those neurons can connect with thousands of others. The number of potential connections is astronomical. It's the most complex structure known in the universe.
And it's broadly divided into 3 main parts.
That's a useful way to think about it. First, the cerebrum. That's the largest part, filling most of the skull. Its outer layer, the cerebral cortex or gray matter, is where the highest level stuff happens. Complex thought, initiating voluntary movement, processing sensory information, language.
And it's all wrinkly for a reason.
Exactly. Those folds and wrinkles dramatically increase the surface area, packing in more processing power. The cerebrum is also divided into 2 hemispheres, left and right, connected by the corpus callosum, and they generally control opposite sides of the body.
Okay, cerebrum. What else?
Below and behind it is the cerebellum. It looks wrinkly too. Its main job is coordinating movement, balance, posture. It doesn't start the movement, but it smooths it out, makes it precise. It learns motor skills, so you can play piano or ride a bike without consciously thinking about every tiny muscle contraction.
The automatic pilot for movement?
Sort of, yeah. And third, the brainstem. This connects the brain to the spinal cord and is absolutely vital for survival. It controls all the unconscious stuff. Breathing, heart rate, blood pressure, sleep cycles, keeping the basic life support systems running.
And within the cerebrum, the cortex is divided into lobes, each with specialties.
Right, like departments in a company, but highly interconnected. The frontal lobe at the front, executive functions planning, decision-making, personality, voluntary movement. The parietal lobe behind it, processing touch, temperature, pain, spatial awareness, taste. The temporal lobe on the sides, processing sound, crucial for memory, learning, emotion, smell, and the occipital lobe at the back, processing everything you see.
And deep inside, there are other crucial structures.
Yes, structures like the limbic system, which is heavily involved in emotions and memory, including the amygdala for fear and the hippocampus for forming new memories. The thalamus is like a central relay station for sensory information heading to the cortex. The hypothalamus regulates body temperature, hunger, thirst, sleep, hormones, connecting the nervous system to the endocrine system.
And all this communication happens through neurons firing signals.
Billions of them, constantly sending electrical and chemical signals. Dendrites receive signals. Axons transmit them across synapses using chemical messengers called neurotransmitters. It's this incredibly dynamic network that allows for everything we do, think, and feel. And it's constantly changing. That's plasticity, how we learn and adapt.
You mentioned brain size. Human brains are significantly larger than, say, a chimp's brain. Is it just size, or is there more to it?
It's definitely not just size, though size matters. Our 1,350-gram average is about 3 times a chimp's brain size. But crucially, it's about density and connectivity. Human brains have many more cells than other primates, and these are more interconnected. That means vastly more processing capacity.
So more connections mean more power, more complex abilities?
Exactly. It's a qualitative leap, not just quantitative. Why did our brains get so big? Theories involve changes in diet. Maybe cooking food made more energy available. Maybe changes in our skull structure, like weaker jaw muscles, allowed the brain case to expand. For an engineer, it's like network effects. A larger, more densely connected network enables entirely new functionalities. Our brain architecture is optimized for complex information processing in a way no other species matches.
And within that complex frontal lobe, there's one area that gets a lot of attention, the prefrontal cortex, our executive suite.
That's a perfect description. The prefrontal cortex, PFC, is absolutely crucial. It sits right at the front of the frontal lobe, and it really is the brain's executive controller, integrating tons of information to guide our most complex behaviors.
What kind of executive tasks does it handle?
A huge range, all deeply interconnected. First, higher cognitive processes, planning complex actions, making judgments, reasoning logically, solving novel problems, organizing tasks over time, cognitive flexibility, adapting to new rules or situations.
So basically thinking ahead and figuring things out.
Right. Second, personality and social cognition. It shapes our individual personality, controls how we respond in social situations, enables empathy, understanding others' perspectives and feelings, and crucially helps us inhibit inappropriate impulses or aggression. It's key to living in complex social groups.
Essential for society.
Absolutely. Third, motivation and emotional regulation. The PFC linked our thoughts and emotions to set goals and work towards them. It allows us to consciously manage our emotional responses, not just react instinctively. Fourth, attention and working memory. focusing our attention, holding information in mind while we work with it. And fifth, it's strongly linked to creativity, generating new ideas, thinking outside the box.
That is an incredible portfolio for one brain region.
It really is. The sophistication and integration of these functions, driven largely by the PFC, is what truly sets human cognition apart. This is where Homo sapiens wise man really earns the name. It's the conductor of our mental orchestra.
And another defining human trait, complex language, also has its own specialized brain areas, right? Broca's and Wernicke's.
Yes, another example of specialized modules. What's fascinating is how dedicated these areas are. Broca's area, usually in the left frontal lobe, is key for language production. It handles the grammar, the structure, the motor commands to actually speak or sign. Damage here causes Broca's aphasia difficulty producing fluent speech, even though understanding might be fine.
So Broca's is for speaking. Wernicke's is for understanding.
Broadly, yes. Wernicke's area, typically in the left temporal parietal lobe, is crucial for language comprehension, for making sense of spoken or written words. Damage here can cause Wernicke's aphasia, where speech might be fluent but nonsensical, full of errors, because the person struggles to understand language, including their own.
And the complexity of human language these areas support is unique.
Utterly unique. Other animals communicate, sometimes very effectively, but the abstract symbolism, the grammar, the ability to talk about things remote in time and space, the sheer generativity of human language, it's unparalleled. This neural architecture for language allowed for cumulative culture, science, everything. It's a massive differentiator.
So putting it all together, the big brain, the PFC, the language areas, it allows us to go way beyond basic instinct, doesn't it? It's about depth and abstraction.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, yes. Our cognitive abilities aren't just scaled up animal intelligence. They involve a different kind of thinking. Our capacity to handle truly abstract concepts, justice, infinity, the future, theoretical physics is remarkable. Animals communicate about the here and now. We can conceptualize and discuss almost anything imaginable.
What about consciousness, self-awareness? Is that uniquely human?
That's a really deep philosophical and scientific question. Some level of self-awareness, or at least awareness of others' intentions, theory of mind, seems present in chimps, dolphins, some birds. But the depth of human self-awareness, our ability to reflect on ourselves, our thoughts, our place in the universe, our mortality, seems profoundly different. Maybe it's a difference of degree, but the degree is so vast it feels like a difference in kind. We have metacognition thinking about our own thinking.
And problem-solving, tool use.
Yeah.
Animals do that too.
They do, and sometimes brilliantly. Crows making tools, chimps using sticks. But again, it's the scale, complexity, and especially the cumulative nature of human innovation. We don't just use a stick. We designed factories to make specialized tools, write manuals, teach engineering principles, build on millennia of previous knowledge. Each generation inherits and adds to the technological and scientific toolkit that doesn't happen anywhere else.
Which makes us the ultimate cultural animal.
Exactly. Our defining characteristic might be our capacity for complex, cumulative culture, art, science, religion, politics, technology. We're the only species that has fundamentally reshaped the entire planet based on our ideas and inventions.
And there's a feedback loop, right? Biology-enabled culture, culture shapes our environment, and maybe even our biology.
A powerful feedback loop. Our unique brain and language ability allowed culture to develop. Culture then created new selective pressures, new environments, new challenges, new opportunities, which in turn influenced our behavior and potentially our ongoing evolution. It's this dynamic interplay between nature and nurture. We're not just shaped by our world, we actively shape it, unlike any other species. It's like a system creating emergent properties that then feed back and modify the system itself.
So, after this incredible journey from atoms to culture, what's the big takeaway for us, for the listener?
I think the deep dive reveals us as this magnificent tapestry, woven from common chemical threads, sharing this profound biological and genetic unity, not just with each other, but with all life. We're deeply interconnected.
We've seen our story starts with a shared origin in Africa, a global expansion fueled by cognitive leaps, especially language, and a history intertwined with other human forms.
And critically, we've reinforced that our ability to interbreed defines us as one species. Biological races are a fiction. The overwhelming majority of genetic diversity is within populations, not between them. Racism is a social construct, completely refuted by science.
And what makes us distinct isn't separation, but sophistication. The intricate wiring of our brain, the power of the prefrontal cortex, our language specialization. These give us unique abilities for abstract thought, complex planning, self-reflection, and building these vast, cumulative cultures that shape our world.
And understanding all this, I think, carries a profound responsibility. It really invites you, the listener, to see past superficial differences and recognize our fundamental unity, to challenge those divisive myths with scientific understanding, and to appreciate the incredible diversity that flourishes on our shared biological foundation.
Because we're the only species, as far as we know, that can actually reflect on its own existence and consciously choose how to shape its future and the planet's future.
Exactly. The wonder of being human isn't just about our abilities, it's a call to action. A call to curiosity, to empathy, to collaboration. We're all part of this grand ongoing project of life. The blueprint is shared, what we build with it, that's up to us.